We're talking. She says, I heard what you said. It's me. It's freaky, man. So you saw this. I the sign got it. She said, I'm gonna tell Rick. She said, I'm gonna tell everything. Don't do that. She called me. We talked. She told. Oh, man. I told Rita, I said, you can't even put it in words. You may change your mind before you get. It's like, are you a drug dealer? Are you Carter? The guy's spitting, he goes, Mr. Wizard. I was like, I don't know if I believe it. I mean, not good, but I mean. Oh, man. But I did get one side up there. Because if they illegal. You sure? No, it was a lousy spot. Did you cross check it? Oh, yeah. I just keep digging.
I need to get someone say I need to get a meeting. I have some roof on something. Oh, yeah.
This is my most favorite part of it.
It's an amazing conversation. You kids, yeah, amazing. Everybody's got a different date. Yeah. It helps to kind of fill you out. I think we're ready to go. It's humble.
He was just off of it.
I didn't know what to leave. I know what I know.
Right. I was supposed to sit right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I just saw her.
Oh.
I know.
Hi.
Hi.
Right over here in the corner. Right over here on that side for you.
What you are here. The play card is next to me.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. The call to order. We don't have to do roll call, right?
We are all present and accounted for.
Okay.
Except for, don't we usually, AJ, do roll call, so on the audio, it has everybody's name on it?
We haven't, but if we want to do that, that'd be your call.
It's fine, we can do that. Yes.
Go around the circle.
Okay, sure. We'll go.
Okay, member Rick Emmelheinz, present.
Member Michael Chisholm, present.
Councilmember Russell, present.
Edie Hughes, present.
Sonia Stern, present.
Vice Chair Mike Vincent, President.
And Rob Watson. So is it audio and video or just video or audio?
It's audio and video.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Okay, so let's go ahead and approve the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any?
To the yes, I mean, so public meeting. Do you want to speak at all tonight? If you do, there's a sign up sheet right over there.
Okay. So then let's go ahead and approve the minutes. Just motions was good. Last second. Okay, thank you. So minutes approved. There's a public forum is next. We don't have anybody signed up to speak.
We just need to do a vote for everyone. We had a first and a second, we just need a vote.
Oh, that's great.
No worries.
Training is tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
Okay, so all of those who approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, public forum, which we don't have anybody signed up for at this time,
And I have not received any emails.
and no emails either. Okay, so we're good with the public forum, so let's go ahead and start with the training piece. Hi.
Hi, you turn around. I'm going to go sit back there.
So while everyone gets situated, for everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Sergio Roturi. I'm from the city attorney's office. I'm the assistant city attorney over there. I'm just gonna go through just some basics. If we can get the PowerPoint to work. All right, it works. You can look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, clicker.
If you're not, if
If I'm not.
next to it,
We're trying to set up
Sorry, what's your last name?
Renteria.
Renteria.
Renter. So the charter allows for a city council to establish boards and commissions for advisory purposes and for quasi judicial purposes. This board is a advisory board, and it was established under EMC, Municipal Code 210-1. Does everyone know where to go for the code?
Does anybody not know?
Okay, so
Yeah, it's all online. It's
the
all
England Municipal Code is all online. If you go to Google and you just type in England Municipal Code, it'll take you to a link where you can just click on it and it will take you to the code. So this board was established through EMC 210-1, and 210-1 is very detailed on what the powers of the board are, how it's established, and what's going on here. And again, you can, it's all online. If you go to the city's website, the main page, it'll allow you to go to a link that goes to the EMC. The England Municipal Code is kept by like a third-party vendor, but it's all in there. It's easily searchable. You can just type in key phrases and it'll take you to anything in there that says it. So if you guys have any questions, everything that has to do with Code Enforcement Advisory Committee is under 210-1. Essentially, the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee is established as an advisory committee to the City Council to regularly review activity, services, and regulatory process established within the code of the England Municipal Code, enforced by Code Enforcement Unit of the Police Department, to provide recommendations to City Council for updates, modifications to those services and regulations. Since the code is very lengthy, I didn't all put it in a PowerPoint, but it goes on to compensation memberships, term of the members, compensation, powers and duties of the board. And under powers and duties of the board, it provides that the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee shall have the following powers and duties: conduct a comprehensive review of those sections of the England Municipal Code regulating domesticated animals and control non-domesticated animal control, environmental pollution, graffiti, noise, outdoor storage, snow, ice removal, trash, litter, grass, weeds, trees, shrubs, and wood burning. The City Council, at their discretion, may direct the committee to review other chapters of the England Municipal Code intended to prevent and abate situations that are deemed detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community as provided under Title 15. And you don't have to remember all this, you can just go look it up. Some of the things that the board is supposed to do is review the processes, procedures, administrative functions of the Code Enforcement Unit, the England Police Department, make recommendations to the city manager or his or her designee for improvements, seek input from members of the community regarding enforcement priorities of the Code Enforcement Unit to utilize the resources provided in a manner that meets the needs of the community, develop community education efforts to inform the community about code enforcement initiatives and regulations, and act as a conduit for communications between City Council, manager, the community, and gather and assess information necessary to make sound recommendations to the City Council for service delivery, and to provide written reports and/or recommendations to the City Council regarding responsibilities set forth in A, B, and C above throughout the City Council liaison as needed, and to make an annual written recommendation to all stakeholders as needed, but no less than annually. So it goes on to establish general rules that the board will set up rules. And that brings us to our next slide, which is the bylaws. Bylaws are a more detailed version of the England Municipal Code. Purpose under the bylaws, the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee is established and requires the community City Council to regularly review activity, service, regulating process established within those sections of the England Municipal Code, enforced by Code Enforcement Unit of the Police Department. It all sounds very familiar because a lot of it was just ripped from the ordinance itself that created the advisory board. Now, under the bylaws, it provides for the creation, the purpose, and powers and duties. Powers and duties are very similar to what we just discussed, but in a more detailed format. They provide for specific sections of code, but then these are not limited to the following sections, which is mostly what you guys deal with. Nuisance type issues, snow removal, grass and weeds, anything that affects the health, safety of the community. It also provides that the board will provide written reports and or recommendations to city council regarding their responsibilities set forth in the bylaws above through their city council liaisons for service delivery, and make annual recommendations to all stakeholders as needed, but no less than annually. So it's writing how what you discussed in the board is provided to city council, and then city council can take those recommendations and they will generally tell the city manager or the city attorney's office on what actions they want to see. Yes.
Are those done through? Like if we look at the code, at the code and say, okay, this needs to be changed, then we line out, rewrite or whatever. Is it done that way, or is there an actual written procedure to do that?
Do you want to answer that or?
So the actual process, Rita, I'm not actually aware of. I'm aware that an annual report is written. Generally, when it comes to actually crossing out writing legislation, that's when the city attorney's office is usually directed to take that on. I'm just not aware of how it usually does.
So the process usually is you all would decide, this committee would decide what recommendations they would make and talk about those. And then you would send the email to me and then to the city attorney's office. They actually rewrite the legislation. Then it comes back to this committee to see if that was what they wanted and then is forwarded to council.
So
Go ahead.
So we're not writing anything in like legislative form. We're just saying, we think section this needs to be changed maybe in this way. And here's our recommendation to you. And then you, as our council person, get that moving. And then it comes back our way to say, oh yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Right.
Yes, it's not cutting the legislation, dissecting the legislation. It's more of a broad recommendation on what it should look like.
Yeah.
And then if it's something that can't be done we can't change it for some reason. Sometimes when stuff is passed through initiatives, we can't be changed unless it's a voter approved initiative. So, we probably hear back from us that this can't be changed because of A, B, and C.
Question.
Yes.
What? We had this recently. What happens if it's a ping pong game where we're sending a message to your office saying, we think this wording should be this way. Your office sends it back and it's almost exactly what we said, but it's different. And then we send it back and we say, no, we want this. When does it become ridiculous? When are we splitting hairs? When I think what we're supposed to be doing is giving general direction.
Mm-hmm.
We're not writing legislation. Right. We're not. So my thought is, even if we all saw your recommendations and we mostly agreed with it, can we send that forward? Even if we said we're not 100% in agreement on this, but we're 90% in agreement. You know what I'm saying? The ping pong thing.
Yeah, I think our job is to make recommendations.
Exactly.
Like we're just making recommendations and ultimately it's all up to the council to make those decisions and how the legislation plays itself out. We're doing our job by just simply making the recommendations, I think.
That makes
and
sense.
We got trapped, I think, in some of this parsing that we should not have been doing.
That
We just simply we hear it from our constituents, we make recommendations, and then we let the council do their work with the lawyers. That's not our job.
And the bottom line is you make recommendations, the city attorney's office makes sure what you want is legal and they put it in words that make it legal.
Right.
And then it can come to the council to decide whether we want to make the changes or not.
Okay.
Does the city attorney's office generally do red line when recommendations like that come forward?
So when recommendations come forward for a specific ordinance, usually what we'll do is, when a new ordinance is proposed, as you're aware, if we underline new language and we redline the previous language. So when new legislation comes forward, you can see what has been changed because it's crossed out. And then the new language or modifying language or a whole new section is underlined, indicating that this is new. So the whole thing appears, the whole ordinance will be on one document, but the previous version or what we're not going forward with anymore will be crossed out. Unchanged versions will just be there, and the new language will be underlined, indicating what's new, what's old, and just what we're leaving.
And then once it's adopted, then all of the stuff that we took out goes away, right?
Yes, once a new ordinance is adopted with the changes, then when the ordinance is codified in the England Municipal Code, they do it in kind of batches. It's not, if the ordinance gets passed this Monday, it's not going to show up like Friday. They do it in batches, and the city clerks do that. So if you go online, it will show all the ordinances that pass. You'll have to click on each individual one, and it'll say, here is the ordinance that passed on whatever date. But every once in a while, I think quarterly, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. The clerk's office codifies it into the Muni code, and then it just becomes a part of the code with none of the extra stuff. And they'll actually be you go online, kind of at the bottom, it kind of tells you when it was changed. Like it'll say
Ordinance like the charter, it kind of says when there are updates to the charter.
Yeah, if you go into the England Municipal Code, if you go under just any particular ordinance, at the bottom, it will say like ordinance 2022. So you'll know that it was updated in 2022 or something changed in 2022 or something happened.
You can select the revision history.
You can typically click on it. The newer ones, you can click on it and it'll bring it up. The older ones, a lot of our code, it'll say like 1985. I'm sure there's a record of that, but we probably have to go for the paper.
No, I just don't. Yeah, I understand.
I think there might be an old ordinance book in our office from the 80s. So,
I
have a question about the powers and duties.
yes.
Which are powers and which are duties?
So every board has their own bylaws. And I just took out, for these slides, I just took out the bylaws it's not lengthy, but it's too much to put it just on a PowerPoint. I just took out the highlights, I guess. Conduct ongoing comprehensive review. The committee shall act as a conduit for communications between city council manager and committee. Duties of recording secretary. So the bylaws, and they were uploaded in the agenda. So if you have access.
Yeah, and I was looking, I guess going back to the duties versus responsibility kind of thing is, do we have a responsibility to review the code? I mean, and on an annual basis, should we be doing that, or is that at the direction of council? Is it specific to a specific issue? Can you jump back a couple slides?
Yeah, so the powers and duties, it's actually section 4 of your bylaws. Sub A, section 4, powers and duties, sub A, conduct an ongoing comprehensive review of those sections of EMC regulating domesticated animals, welfare and control, non-domesticated animals control, environmental pollution, graffiti, noise, outdoor storage, snow and ice removal. Skip ahead. The city council may, at their discretion, direct the committee to review other chapters of EMC intended to prevent or abate situations that are deemed detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community as provided, primarily in Title 15 of this code. The committee shall make recommendations to city council for the addition, deletion, and revision of these provisions of the EMC.
And I'm sorry, I want to jump back. Can you go back one more slide?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I want to make sure you're clear about. I'm asking, conduct an ongoing and comprehensive review of certain sections of the EMC. Is that a duty that we have to do, or is it just a power that we have of doing that?
So power and duty are mixed up into the same sort of thing. I guess the responsibility.
What I'm doing is this something which
we should be putting on an agenda to do on a monthly basis, is to pick some aspect of the EMC that is our purview and review that.
How the board conducts their business is up to the board itself. The responsibility of the board is to examine the provisions of the England Municipal Code, which are detailed in the bylaws, kind of nuisance and abatement stuff, and to comprehensively review them and to come up with recommendations to advise city council of changes, modifications, concerns of the community. You know, an annual report of after you review.
Okay, so we are a review committee.
An advisory committee.
Are we supposed to be doing an ongoing review of this, or are we taking direction from council as to recommendations of things we should be looking at?
The board is, I guess, the community arm of city council regarding this issue. You're an advisory board that basically is to review the sections. It's not all inclusive. City council may tell you to review other sections of the code, but there's particular sections that are specifically designated in the England Municipal Code. And that's basically taken from the England Municipal Code and put into your bylaws, but a little bit more specific. To review those and to come up with recommendations on whatever the board improvements, additions, deletions, whatever the board decides. How the board conducts its business essentially.
And I think also one way this, if you have people coming on a regular basis and they start talking about problems, that may give you all an idea of what area that you need to look at and make recommendations for change if the board determines that it's a problem.
If there's something.
That's okay. It seems to me that if we're going to be an extension to the community, maybe we need to be doing more outreach in the community. In other words, inviting people to come and maybe do some open forums or whatever to hear from people about their concerns regarding the code. And that would be our role, is to actively listening to that, and then synthesizing that and coming up with recommendations. Because just by ourselves, I mean, we're a small group. It seems to me that we would need to be doing more outreach.
And we do have public comments, and we have a public forum as part of our agenda every month. It's open to the public.
But I don't think people really know that. You know, I mean, people that are in the know, that do it all the time, yeah, I mean, they would. But if we're going to be proactive, it would seem to me that maybe in our communications, that we hold an open forum, maybe once a year or twice a year.
You know, when you form the communications subcommittee, that could very likely be something that maybe you want to highlight in magazine article or something.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
To build on that, the only section, maybe to answer your question a little bit more, subsection D, the only thing where it says that you must do anything is subsection D says the committee shall act as a conduit of communication between city council, city manager, and the community to gather and assess the information necessary to make sound recommendations to the city council.
And so I think that's really important, because we did hear through the summer months a concern about the way weeds and grasses were being judiciated through the city. And so that now I think we're in this portion where we can take all that data we can bring in. And by the time summer comes around next year, we can have a response to give, well, before summer, even to the council, to say, you know, make recommendations about the way we go about, you know, handling weeds and grass going into next summer.
And to Edie's issue about communication, we can utilize a winter magazine or something in order to inform people
Sure.
about what they should anticipate coming up in terms of weed management. As their project.
Right.
Do you know when the winter publication closed? Or-
I know it's coming up pretty soon. I think the winter one is coming up beginning of October sometime.
Okay.
And we do have the subcommittee information for next month's agenda as well to elect new members.
Yeah, I knew that. That's why I was trying to figure out a way to get something in before then. I'll
Let's speed through this so we can hear all night and hear the questions if necessary.
You're all right.
So the bylaws, they're on the agenda tonight. You can access them. I'm sure you guys are given the bylaw. It's not that big of a read. I would suggest just a refresher. It's okay to go back and look at the bylaws if you have a question. I also wanted to talk about Colorado Means Law. State law that requires any state or local government body to discuss public business or take formal action during an open meeting. 24-6-401 to 402, that's kind of the statute. Now, what constitutes a meeting? Any kind of gathering, convening to discuss public business, whether in person, by telephone, and importantly, electronically, an email, a Zoom meeting, or by any other means of communication. Anything that is part of a policy-making process is subject to the Colorado Open Meeting. Now, electronic communications are part of this law. Conversations between the forum in which any business of the body is discussed or where any formal action may be taken is subject to the Colorado Open Meetings. That includes Zoom, Teams, text message, emails. It is city policy to require notice to be posted by noon on Thursdays. It's what the posting notice of people who come in and discuss public business. In all cases, the state requires at least 24 hours of notice. So the city standard is much higher than what the state requires, but we want to make sure that we're doing the public's work in public and they have notice of it. And the notice must be clearly informed the layperson, the place, date, time, general, or anything. I'm assuming that you have public city staff that kind of puts a notice of that. What does not constitute a meeting? Chance encounters or social occasions where the public business is not the central purpose of the meeting are not subject to open meetings laws. There are three or more. If there are two or more members present, you may not talk about public matters. So if you guys all run into each other, just happen to run across each other, no public, no discussing business.
The two of us could.
Technically, yes.
Not three.
We had this conversation before.
But not free.
Yeah, but not three. But not three or more.
Yeah, so not three or more. So it's because there must be notice of meetings, essentially. Three or more is the meeting. Or when there's a quorum of the body present. Colorado Open Records Act. The requirement that public records be open to the public for their review. What constitutes a public record? Most writings may maintain or kept by public office and public record. The content must discuss some public matter. Emails, text messages, electronic communications, stuff can become part of the Colorado Open Record Act. So take action minutes, upload packet information. The packet information is our request. If someone were to talk about what if someone wanted to know what this meeting is about, we direct them to the stuff that was uploaded. And then freedom of information for members, emails, and communications. Emails are subject to quorum. Now, the rules of procedure, follow the rules of order. It's a way for the meeting to be run in a simplified set of rules situated for kind of local meeting and decision making. The important provisions of using follow the rules of orders, and AJ uploaded kind of like cheat, like the rule. He uploaded the rules, also kind of a cheat sheet. It's okay. Look at it if you need. In a public meeting such as this, the chairperson runs the meeting. So it's his position to keep order and make sure that everyone's only kind of talking one at a time and that a proper meeting is being held. Recognition by the chair is required to address the body as well as having the floor. Time limit to have the floor is 5 minutes, can request additional time. A member may only speak once to any motion until all the members have had the opportunity to speak. No interruptions beside discussions when there's a matter on the floor. All motions must receive a second before the discussion may begin. If someone makes a motion, I move, and no one seconds it, essentially that motion just dies. You move on. Chairperson may decide to deviate from the rules to increase efficiency. There are primarily three types of motions: privileged motions. All points are privileged motions. Main motions, subordinate motions. Points are privileged motions, may be raised at any time. Four types of points: points of information, request information on a specific question, point of order, essentially pointing out the rules of order are being violated, point of appeal, challenge a decision of the chairperson about the rules of order, and a point of decorum, review an act of a member. Points and motions must be dealt with in priority order. First priority are privileged motions. All points are privileged motions. Motions to recess, motions to enter executive session. Second priority are main motions. Motions formally present some sort of action to the body. And then third priority are subordinate motions. Motions to amend, continue date certain, call in question. Also wanted to get into the handbook. Are you guys aware of the handbook? It's also in the material that AJ uploaded. The handbook has a lot, it answers a lot of questions. It's not that voluminous. It's a read, but it's not long. It's pretty big font. And if you have any questions, refer to your bylaws or your handbook. They should answer most questions that you will have. And remember, the bylaws is what's giving you guys the power and duty that you have. In addition to the Eagle Municipal Code, there's also the handbook on AJ uploaded it, so all you guys should have it. And then there's the rules of order, and AJ also uploaded those. It's okay to have them in a binder and to look at them. This isn't a speed contest. If you have to refer to material, it's fine until you kind of get the swing of things, or anytime you have a question, just refer to them. It's all right to have a binder. Is that your binder? It's okay to have a binder. It's not a speed contest. It's not how fast you can get the meeting done. If you have to refer to material until you kind of get the swing of things, that's all right. Any questions based on the remainder of that?
To choose.
Oh,
sorry.
Niche.
I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Did you get the scratch?
It's okay to have the material. If you cannot find the material, I'm sure AJ, a council member, Russell will gladly give it to you.
The council was given these.
Yeah, I found this in my office.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Then summaries for motions. So
It's not a seat contest. Some people just know how to do it, but they've done it a lot. But if you don't and you're new, that's important to have just the material next to you. It's important to follow the rules of order because we want to, these are recorded, they're kept. We want to make sure that we're recording and keeping good records. No questions? Yes.
Peter probably can answer this, but what would happen if a citizen who doesn't know anything about all these committees process comes to a city council meeting and they've got a great idea relating to code enforcement, just a brilliant insight. Would council require that come to this group, or would council entertain it directly from that citizen?
I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, a public comment, I mean, it's open to come in and talk about whatever you'd like. During that public comment, council can take that matter up, move to take the matter up, direct the city attorney to look into it, direct the city manager to look into it. And then once city council directs us to look into it, that can lead to an ordinance, a discussion, advice on how to proceed. But what I'm just saying in my head is
We would not necessarily have to be brought into the conversation.
No.
Council might say, hey, run it by CEAC, just get their opinion. Or council could say,
Let's send it to the city manager and maybe we could run.
The one that pops into my head is a recent example of someone had come to public comment about pet shops. They just kind of presented on pet shops during open comment. And I know that that came to us as a directive to kind of look into it, and that led to an ordinance.
And it didn't come to code enforcement at all.
Yeah, so I mean, the public can go to, they can come here, make public comment. They can go to city council, make public comment. All their boards and committees are also open to the public, and that's important that we be open to the public. That's what the importance of the open meetings law. That it's public, people know where to do it. We have a whole meeting portal, has all the meetings listed for the month, and you can attend. Can they attend this one online, AJ?
Not
Okay, so this one sounds like it's only in person still.
I have a question. As I was reading through the material this afternoon, I noticed that we are officially an ad hoc. Does that, and it does not specify that we need to be meeting on a monthly basis. Is that true? I mean, could we not meet on a regular basis or meet as we do needed, or the council had to need them? So I'd have to refer back to your bylaws that provide your powers and duties. How the board conducts its business can be, it's board decides how you guys conduct your business. Most,
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say, historically, this was an ad hoc committee. I mean, when I first got on, they didn't meet every month. They just met if there was something to discuss. And so in the course of time, it has become a monthly meeting within the last 8 years, really.
so yeah, how the board conducts its business is.
Yeah, our bylaws do not bind us to
no,
every month.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting conversation maybe we could have.
But would that be up to the chairperson?
Well, the chairperson could put it on the agenda and or we could bring it up as a point of conversation to have.
Their numbers change.
In the past, we've skipped months. Like we decided like we were all too busy at Christmas time or December, or everyone was going to be gone on vacation. So we have skipped months in the past.
But there was nothing scheduled. I mean, we had nothing scheduled, so there's nothing on schedule. That. But when we show up and he wouldn't be here.
Yeah, so as long as it's not against charter, against the bylaws, against the municipal code, against any other rule, the board can decide however. So the bylaws can be changed.
Bylaws can or cannot.
Bylaws can easily be changed. It's constitutions and charters that are.
Unlikely to change the charter.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right. That's what
That
I'm
has to
saying.
go a vote of the people.
Right, that's what I'm saying. As things go, bylaws are the easiest thing.
Yes,
This is what we
bylaws,
get into.
bylaws can be changed, but there's nothing in the bylaws that mandates how often you guys meet. There are other boards, like Mally Trust Board meets quarterly, or they meet quarterly, yeah, quarterly.
The election board doesn't meet, but maybe once a year. I'm on that. Different one.
It could be a conversation. Yeah.
And Board of Adjustment and Appeals, if there's nothing on the agenda, they don't meet. Any other questions?
No, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no,
Thank you so much.
anytime,
Yes, thank you.
anytime.
Thank
Can we
you very
have a
much.
copy of these?
Huh?
Can we have a copy of that?
Yeah, no, I emailed it to AJ.
And I'll attach it in the minutes.
Okay,
So
thank
it'll be
you.
available for.
That's the best presentation we've had for quite a while. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look at some of the meetings and see what the other presentations are. Take notes.
Well, when you have an attorney here, it changes things
Better.
better.
I think it helps the way that we understand our own work. To have, somebody who understands the legal side.
Yeah, just refer to the board manual that they give all the boards. I mean, it answers a lot of questions and really shortly.
Yeah.
What if what? Oh, there it is. Your bylaws and then the statute, but the statute is just kind of a watered down version of bylaws because a lot of the stuff that's from the statute we're taking into the bylaws. You guys,
Thank you very
I'm
much.
gonna hang around for the rest of the meeting, but if you guys ever need anything else, just, you know where to find us.
Yeah, very much appreciated.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Okay. So, yeah, the next on the agenda is topics for future meetings. What we have listed currently is the reevaluate needs for changes for Title 6, Chapter 5, Section 652, reinspection fees. So this is for a future meeting.
That's for next meeting. Yes.
Correct. Okay. So are we good with keeping that on there for that? Because that's something I think we've had discussions about.
And isn't there a letter out there from this committee that hasn't been, I can't remember Reed sent a copy of this, wasn't it?
Yes.
We have pushed this and that we just hadn't heard back from. So yeah.
Finalizing language on this, but weren't we just the?
I don't think it's been, I don't think it's been finalized.
It hasn't been finalized.
So we will bring it, we'll bring it up at the next meeting and we'll go through what, because there were changes that were made that weren't agreed upon by everybody or seen by everybody. So we'll need to look at that before we send it on.
Could we potentially approve it at the next meeting or do
Sure.
we need to?
Sure, we could do whatever we want with it. I mean, let's review it, see what the changes we had listed were, what changes were made that maybe we weren't aware of, and then see what we want to continue with. That's going to probably take some time.
And the letter that was drafted is already together, right? It'll be on the next agenda.
Yeah, we have that.
So I have the letter from past Chair Green that was submitted after his resignation. So that would be up to the chair if we want to include that or not as maybe public comment.
Yeah.
But there, from the version 2 that was addressed, I believe, back in June, there have been no official changes or recommendations made outside of that meeting. So the July, August meeting is when that change occurred, but there has been no official changes made to the ordinance from that point.
Correct. So let's go ahead and review it the next meeting. So can you attach it to the agenda for the next meeting, the last one you have?
Yes, yeah, and that's the from the city attorney's office, the version 2 that I attached, and that will be there.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Any more discussions on that topic for the next meeting? All right, moving on to continue discussions for the code fact sheet.
That might tie in. That was going to be the communication to get information out to the community.
Oh,
Um,
the sub,
of
okay,
other topics. So we may be able to join that in with the subcommittee.
yeah, let's do that. Let's move that in the subcommittee and as part of the communication subcommittee. And let's move that to A. Let's get that one done first,
First, okay.
if you don't mind.
Nope.
Just because we've got deadlines. Oh, go ahead.
This might be already implied. I feel strongly that the way tickets look, or the message behind the message, what really happens in the spring is code enforcement says, heads up. It's not you're under arrest. It's not you're in trouble.
Oh, no.
But the reaction from many people who get those pink slips or whatever color they are is sort of a gut reaction to, oh my God, what did I do? I'm innocent. And I think we should look at the message and how the message is delivered, because I think for a lot of people, and I said this happened in my family, it's just that visceral reaction when you see a pink slip or something and you think, I think a lot of the energy could be dispelled if the message was, it's a friendly reminder of what it is.
Yes,
And I think we should say it's a friendly reminder.
I would agree. There are things that we can discuss, I think.
So in that communication.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just the communications. The communications is definitely part of it. but the form itself, I mean, I don't know if is that within our purview?
I think you can discuss that.
Can we look at it?
Yeah, we can bring that up as good.
Is that used on everything, like snow removal,
Yeah.
or is it just used for weeds?
I don't remember, snow removal is different, is it,
Snow removal was already addressed. That is first and final notice that's issued at the beginning of the year for the first violation. So that was already addressed by this committee, I believe, last year.
but there's no notice of violation on snow removal, right?
Yes, yeah, the actual wording for the posting notice is set by municipal code. So where you can request the from the courts for your appeal, possible fine, all that's set up in municipal code already. The only thing that this committee added was that this is a first, but it's a final notice to let people know that, no, this is still a warning, but this is the only warning you're gonna receive.
And is weeds the same way, or is weeds a different process?
Weeds is under a separate code. So it is a different process, but the wording in it for the appeal process for the possible punishment and all that is also in municipal code.
But I don't think it's just the appeal process or whatever's listed on there. I think it's the wording on
Notice of
the
violation.
notice of violation where it tends to look more like severe. You are in trouble, as opposed to, hey, this is a notice, this is informational, you're not being fined, this isn't going on your record. That, and I'm sorry, I do see you over there. Yes, those things. Yes, but I'm sorry, but there, we can only take public during public comment.
Well, I just wanted to make one comment about how the message is delivered. Some of the code enforcement officers are overtly threatening when they deliver these. And
That's unfortunately not something we can cover. That's got to be addressed with their management and those and that group and the police. So I understand, I do understand your concern problem with that, but
deaf ears.
it's not deaf ears, it's just that's
No, I mean,
outside of.
I mean their
Oh.
management.
But I think that probably a citizen can come forward during public comment and just, and share, you know,
Sure.
the next time and share that. And I mean, it's possible if more, I mean, in the past, we've had 3 or 4 people with that same thing, but I think if they bring that to this committee and it's something we could talk about.
Yeah, I agree.
I would like to publicly invite you to come to our next meeting and speak during the public forum time, so that it's also that your concerns are on the record officially, the way they're supposed to be. So I would like to make that invitation to you. So please come speak. That's what we want to be, is a place where you feel comfortable to come and talk about those concerns.
It can be difficult if you're general public to find out when you are.
And I think that's actually another conversation we need to have
Yeah,
about, you know, as priorities of where we're going to be meeting.
yeah, it's published on the website, on the Inglewood.gov website. All the meetings are published there. I know that may not be 100% accessible for everybody, but outside of that, I don't know how else.
Generally, the meetings for Code Enforcement Advisory Committee are the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And I mean, I suppose we are here until further notice.
And we're right, we are here until further notice in this room. Because the other ones are either taken for the rest of the year, passed, due to needing audio and or video recording, have limited options.
And if you'd like to stay after, I can talk to you to get more information and maybe have answers for next month.
We do, and that's why I'm saying, I don't mind talking, but just some of the things, well, it's not the time.
You know, I mean,
To me, it's not. the
you've
time.
got a lot
You
to
guys-
cover.
Especially Rita might be the time. Rita's in the
Time.
So, and I agree. And I think that is something we need to discuss, is that what you have there? And we've seen them before, the letters, because they do seem more threatening than they we are told that they actually are. So that is something maybe we can talk about changing. I just don't, do we have purview there?
I think so. I'll check on that.
Okay, because that's, it's not a code enforcement. You know, it's not in the England Municipal Code, but
I would say there's probably information that has to be in there for it to be a process. And so they have to make sure certain pieces are in there, how it's structured. I would hope it has some flexibility.
Yeah, and in municipal code, it actually lays out from the title to where the ordinance will go to the wording for how long they get and all that under the posting notice of all that wording. So anything extra could be added, but none of that can be taken away without the city
yeah, we'll bring it.
municipal code change.
We'll bring in the municipal code and look at that as well as part of this.
Would it be possible at our next meeting to have samples of those
I'd like to.
tickets, pieces of paper, or whatever, they are, so we could look at them?
Well, that's my free one. Let me get you.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just take a look at it and see what, I thought the weed, reminder was a special color nose or something.
Yeah, it was pink, wasn't it?
No, it's,
Is it white?
Yeah.
I thought it was pink. No, white, okay.
White.
So probably my
I
eye.
think it was another letter, and it gives a description of whether your violation is in the back portion of your property or the front portion of your property. Is it different from that?
It is super vague and general, so that it can cover everything.
Because like I said, I mean, I've joked at this meeting before
Can we get?
that I get one notice every single year because I forget that I have an alleyway.
So
Um,
I asked them to provide examples. So that we
Okay,
can-
perfect.
So that we can look.
They want to add review just the weed notice as a separate agenda item, or how do we want to add this in?
Put that as B.
As B,
Underneath the communication subcommittee. I'd like to keep that first. Because that's just something we have to do. I mean, all of that is.
Because it's supposed to be education first. The notices.
Yes.
It's supposed to be.
And we,
Yeah.
and honestly, we've been told that that's what they're meant to be. But we've seen reaction where obviously I've never seen one, so. But we've seen reaction where obviously that is not the end result. So that is something we do. Okay. And so continuing on, so what was A will now be C, communication subcommittee will be A, and then the reviewing of the code, municipal code and the associated letters will be B. Okay. Ready, Jay?
yes.
Okay, just making sure. All right. So, and we're going to combine the fact sheet with the subcommittee. So the next one would be the priorities. What is that? It looks like there's a link here for the priorities. It says 719. Is that the last one that we have?
Yes, and the first priority of the priorities is the fact sheet.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
That's just a continuation from that 719
Okay.
meeting.
We'll leave that there for now. Oh, it's fine. But you tabbed everything. I don't have this, I don't have the, my checkbook doesn't look like this. If people still know what checkbooks are. Okay. Yeah, this is, yeah, very nice. So
I have the Colorado Constitution in there too, but it's 206 pages. It's ridiculous.
the fact that you know it's 206 pages. is impressive. All right. Well, the nomination for this communications subcommittee should fall under. And then, okay, then the next meeting. So leave that there for the next meeting.
And on the next meeting, I do have a request from Code Manager Lewis. If he cannot attend, if we start at 6, if we start at 5:30, he can attend a partial meeting. He has a pre-arranged, if we have a lot of these questions, such as the weed notices and postings, I can get a lot of that information, hopefully answer some questions in reference to that. Any new questions that come up may have to be postponed until he's back, but I may be able to answer a lot of it.
Yeah.
Is everybody good, with the pages? Because I think going to 5:30 might be a little too early for some people. Unless I'm wrong and everybody thinks we can go ahead and do
I don't
5:30.
I think if AJ can.
I don't want to
Make sure we've got the pieces in place to have that discussion. I don't see why we need to change that time.
Yeah, and if we stick to the agenda, I can get information ahead of time so I can know the history of it, the plan, and try to get as much of that answered. If we deviate from that, we may not get answers right away. I just want to make sure we're aware of that.
Well, I think the main question isn't just the history, it's the what has to be there, which will bring up the municipal court. And can we have leeway on how we work?
And I can figure all that out beforehand as well.
What time were you saying?
6 o'clock. We're going to keep it the same. We're going to keep it the same. It would be just confusing to us, but to people wanting public comment. And then we start a half hour early, we read through public comment, nobody's here, and then 5 people show up at 6 o'clock. Okay, so adjournment is the next item on the list. Okay, I just making sure there was nothing past adjournment. So next meeting is October
18th,
18th.
Wednesday, correct?
third Wednesday of the month, yes.
Okay. All right, so next meeting we'll go ahead is October 18th at 6. Let's go ahead and, even though it's not on the agenda, a good point, says member's choice. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss, bring up, or possibly introduce?
I thought maybe we were gonna talk, when you talk about the subcommittee, the communication subcommittee, right now, there are 2 people.
There's nobody.
There's nobody. Are both members done?
The people that were on the communication subcommittee.
Before. Oh, Tara,
Tara,
David.
yeah.
David.
Yeah.
And who else? Do you remember? Was
I
it Carson? No.
No, it was another person.
don't remember who it was.
The last one I have was you.
Oh, me?
I thought it was Rob. I wasn't.
Okay, I guess it was me. So, yeah, Tara was going to, the last I remember, Tara was going to do some stuff. I'm pointing here because this is where. And get some things together and then provide them, and obviously that never happened. So we need to that's why we need to revisit the subcommittee. We have to create a new subcommittee.
Okay, well, I just bring it up because I'm willing to work on that. I have a background in PR and communications.
There you go.
Ran a firm and
Well, that's gonna be.
and I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
So,
thank you. You will be solely nominated to be.
We had a really good discussion at the last meeting about, with the director of communications for the city. And all the
Okay.
different things.
oh,
Review some of the notes from that.
yeah, I'd like to.
Video. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube and I look what
City of England.
City of Englewood.
If you go onto the City of Inglewood website under boards and commissions,
Okay.
you'll have all the meeting agendas. If you choose last month's meeting, at the top, it'll say minutes, and then there's a little video icon. You can click on that video icon and watch the entire meeting.
Okay, I'll do that.
And he had some good information. Regarding all this in the house.
A tidbit, I did send, I think you and AJ, some e-bike regulations. And at some point, I think we ought to talk about that. Interesting, the Sustainability Commission is asking a lot of the same questions, maybe from a different angle, but it has to do with safety, rules of the road. If Englewood's going to encourage e-bikes, what's proper? And so it's just interesting that these committees kind of parallel with each other. So
Yeah,
somewhere in there, I think we should.
I don't know if we'll have, maybe at the end of the next meeting, we'll have time. We'll have to look and just maybe do it as a member's choice, seeing how we are on time. If not, we'll do it the following. But I did get it. I just didn't think I should respond because I don't.
No, that's fine.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, you want to rock the boat.
Well, it's not rock the boat. It's that two or more rule, and I didn't want to take a chance on it.
But I did my duty. I said I would say it. I said it. In, so.
I do have it in a folder for future meetings.
Okay.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I have connections to Colorado Bike Law. My husband owns a bike store
Oh.
and is associated with Colorado Bike Law, and they're the largest lobbying group that helps with the city of Denver and encourages rules and making sure that everybody knows all the rules of the road. So I could always get you in contact with people if that's helpful.
I think it would be. I think the question is timing or when would we want to entertain that conversation? I mean, I think it's good. We should be thinking about it and maybe at some point prepared to make a recommendation of some kind. So I don't know when is the right time, or when do we shift gears on it?
So if I remember right, the state isn't pushing anything on this right now.
There was some really clear stuff on that stuff that you have, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we don't push sort of our recommendations, I think an awareness piece maybe in the spring would be a good thing to include in the magazine or something.
Magazine, yeah.
E-bike protocols or e-bike etiquettes or something which takes
Right.
that, factors it in, so we can kind of be proactive when people start writing it again.
So part of this could fall also under the communications.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was looking at.
Right. And it could be like a regular column.
Yeah, we had discussed that, and he said, the communication manager said we could add whatever we wanted to each one. We wouldn't even have to write. You'll see it when you either watch or listen to the meeting. Is that
Okay.
we didn't even have to write it. We just had to give the high level overview of what we wanted, and then they had copy editor. They could actually
Great.
do the write-up. It's very nice.
Part of the e-bikes, a lot of that may fall actually under the Parks and Rec Committee. So if we do talk about the next meeting, we may want to do a motion to bring it up to council and see where council wants, what committee to actually address it and look at it. So if there are other committees looking at it, we're not doing multiple work. Because any new laws or ordinances for that would most likely fall under Parks Rec or under the traffic laws under the PD side.
Where, do you know where that would fall off the top of your head?
Well, we have
I do
to
not.
say safety.
Right.
So safety is one of our purviews. So maybe it's an overlapping kind of.
Well, it definitely has, right.
It definitely would fall under traffic, you would think, yeah.
Right.
But maybe it would be a collaborative approach, take a collaborative.
We'll discuss that. Okay, we'll discuss that in the next meeting. Well, yeah, let's do that as part of the communication subcommittee. Decide how to, or talk about how to do that and where it falls, and who wants to deal with it. Any other members' choices?
I move to adjournment.
Or second for the motion? Good. If it's second. Okay, it's, motion carried.
All in favor.
All in favor? I was getting there, it's just slow.
That's okay.
All those four? All those opposed?
AJ, we don't officially have to adjourn the meeting, do we?
Well, but we did.
She second.
This meeting is adjourned.
Sonia second. And we agreed it was.
If I get your phone number in case I can't make it.
Right.
I can.
But yeah. Oh, you pulled it. And I thought, oh. There is.
Some parts, I mean,
You're at just.
Yeah. Corona.
reach around here.
Oh, maybe you.
Okay, clear.